Welcome to today's edition of Text Tuesday, a special edition for International Week. My name is Luis Garcia, Vice President of Emerging Technologies, and today we have a great panel of Full Sail University graduates that were international students. Let me introduce you to them really quickly. First, we have Mr. Rhuan Santos. He's from Brazil. He's a software engineer for Walmart these days and graduated from Full Sail in 2017 with a degree in web design and development. And we have Gustavo Hernando from Dominican Republic, and he's a UX designer for Full Sail University, so probably most of you have used his work. And he graduated from Full Sail in 2005 in a degree for digital media. All right, so today, we have an audience in here, and we're streaming in both YouTube and Facebook. So I'm going to start with some questions with them from here, and then we're going to go to the audience in about 20 minutes. Let's get started. So, Rhuan, how did you first fall in love with technology, and what do you love the most about it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Luis. I think I fell in love with technology once I got my first computer, right? I discovered some browser features that you could, inspect the elements on the page and change the colors and things like that. And I really love this reaction where, you can give the computer command and then the computer would react according to that, changing colors or moving stuff around the page. And I think, I really fell in love with this behavior of giving the command and, seeing something happening on the screen.
What do you love the most about technology?
Yeah, I think the challenges that it brings, solve problems or have the ability of create something that will make other people's lives better or easier. I think solving the problem somehow for the community, it's what really makes me excited about technology.
Thank you, Rhuan. I'm so surprised. When I met Rhuan, and a full disclosure, I met him since he's a teenager, he didn't speak a lick of English. Not a word. Isn't that impressive? Yeah, learn right here at Full Sail. Gustavito, that's how we call him. I know him for a very long time, too.
Suppose we all have that in common, that we got this love for technology with our first computer. And my case was similar. My dad it was 1994. It was one of those beige, brick, ugly computers. I don't even remember what I did with that computer. I know I had a couple games, Family Feud. But the amount of time that I spent trying to figure out everything I could do with that computer, that's where that sparked. I just loved spending time figuring things out. And it was different than video games. Video games was more linear. There was not so much intellectual challenge. But the computer itself, I just spent so much time trying to figure it out. So that's what I loved about it. And in technology in general, I love that it does make lives easier for people. And there's just so many possibilities, things that you can do, you can learn. Tools, app services, you can figure anything up. You go to Google, as you know, and you can learn anything and make things happen.
That's incredible. Yeah. There was not too long ago that wasn't possible.
True.
And it's very, very cool the way we can do it today. So both of you work for very, very different companies. And so I wonder if we could share a little bit about what you're working on today. I'll start with you, Rhuan. What are you working on today?
Yeah, so I'm working on Walmart, as Luis mentioned. I pretty much work on the cart and checkout page of sunsclub.com, which is owned by Walmart. Where we have all the functionalities of delivering to a customer at home, when you pick the time and you set your payment, your shipping address, and things like that. So we have a lot of shared components around, Suns Club and other e-commerce at Walmart. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm working on, mostly on the front-end side of things.
So, Walmart is in Arkansas, and you live here in Florida. So how's a day like for you?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually working on the PST time zone. So my day starts at 12 and finishes at 9. Walmart, we have engineers all around the world. A lot of the team, part of the team is in India. A lot of people are in California, or we have people all over America. So yeah.
So you are in the Pacific time team, even though you're in the East Coast.
Yeah.
So that's why your schedule shifts.
Yeah.
So your mornings are off.
Yeah, my mornings are off, and then I start working at 12 and until 9.
Until 9 p.m. Yeah. How about you, Gustavo? What are you working on these days?
Well, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, but Full Sail University has a couple of apps, internal apps, because I don't work on any of the marketing websites, but we have a native app. We have Full Sail 1 and Full Sail Online, as you probably are familiar with.
No.
So there's a learning component with Full Sail Online, the more of a community component, Full Sail 1, and now we're designing and developing the native app so you could have a seamless experience across all of those areas. Full Sail 1, as you know, has Learn, it has Connect, the community, and then Support, where the goal is you can have support all in one place. So we're trying really hard to make this experience as seamless as possible. So you go from the learning environment to the community environment. When you need help, it's all right there. That's what we're working on day to day.
And that's amazing. Not all the time you get to see your users in front of you.
Yes.
So everyone here probably have used the work that you do. That's pretty cool. Hopefully they like you.
I hope so. It's over 1,500 screens, and they all have to play nice together. So.
Yeah, that's right. So working in technology is about, and you already have mentioned, both of you have mentioned about this, it's about problem solving. And even if you're designing experiences or you're designing technology, it's always trade-offs, and that is about solving problems. So, as a technology, sometimes you solve problems that people don't know about, and some of the most complex problems are the ones that the people never get to learn. But I love to ask about those. So I wonder if you can share about a particular technology problem that you solved that people may not know about, but you're particularly proud of.
Yeah, definitely. So on the company that I worked before, it's called Florida Blue, is a health insurance company here. A lot of the processes in the hospitals today, they don't happen in a digital way. We have a lot of patient records that go through a fax or go through a scan process, and what ends up happening in this process is you lose a lot of data. So in one of the systems of Florida Blue, we had like over 1 billion documents, and a lot of those documents, they were kind of like a black box, right? Because when you send those documents through a fax channel or a scan channel, what happens is just a picture at the end of the day. So we usually we combine OCR technology and also AI to pretty much go through these documents and help the nurses to read and understand the patient records.
Okay.
So instead of the nurse having to go through 100 pages and read and understand what the patient problem is, we had the whole process that would OCR and analyze the data that was initially just a picture and understand and give meaning to that content. Right. So at the end of the day, we end up saving the company a lot of time and money because the nurses didn't have to go through all of the pages, just
hundreds of pages to understand that something the patient had.
And definitely the accuracy there was much better when the system came into place.
And combining OCR and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yep.
And how about you, Gustavo? Is there a particular problem that you solved that you're proud of?
Turns out that a couple of weeks ago, we work on a design system at Full Sail in our team where we have one place for all of our components that power the apps that we're building. And the design aspect of that has a component called circles. So I'm really proud of this one because unbeknownst to most people, it is the thing that has so much data inside that component that it was probably 2 years in the making.
Wow.
We have this interface where we list all of the assignments, right, that the students have to do. And each of those assignments is represented in a card. We have a list of cards, and we have to convey so much information to so many different use cases, to so many different people, at so many different points in time, that I was scratching my head, how can I convey all this information in a way that is very compact? Because I am anti-noise. I don't want to have an interface that is too busy. And the success of our app is how simple it is, right? Easy to use. The users doesn't have to think about what to do next. Long story short is the circle component basically conveys a lot of information in one small package. And I'm proud of that because most people don't know the amount of work that went into it, but they also haven't seen every single iteration and version of that circle component.
Right.
It conveys completion status. Did you complete it? Did you not complete it? The progress that you completed it. What grade did you get? Has it been graded, yes or no? Is there a status assigned to it? And there's colors involved. And there's just another version which is called the characters, version of this component, which conveys even more information. So all in all, we're talking about 100 different use cases for one circle conveying all that amount of information. So most people don't know that it's that extensible, you know?
Yes. But most people don't know that it's very, very difficult to make an interface simple.
Yes.
You gotta be ruthless about the things that you're gonna take out.
Yes.
And that's a very good one. Let's talk about the contrary of that question. There are problems that we don't get to solve, features that we don't get to implement, or maybe the technology is not there yet for us to solve it, or maybe there wasn't enough time. And then those turn up like, I really want to be able to tackle that one. Do you have an example of that?
Well, I think back in my time in Brazil when I was working there, there was a lot of issues around connection, right? I think majority of people don't have the connection speed that requires, to have certain functionalities on the website. And I think that was very frustrating because I saw international sites that had a different public doing so many cool stuff, and I was kind of blocked by some of that limitation that the connectivity bring to the people.
And how do you? So you don't get to solve that completely, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's interesting. How about you, Gustavo?
Yeah. So another part of our interface, I'll just talk about that because it's what I know, right?
Right.
We have the faculty side of the experience, the instructors, and then the student side.
Right.
The faculty side of the app is huge. There's so much more they have to do, right? There's many buttons that students don't see. They have no visibility into that. Grading, you're not going to grade your own assignment, right? So the faculty experience, one component that I wish we could have spent more time on and gotten more feedback was the dashboard feature. Dashboard feature is basically a one-stop shop for you to see the health of the class, how many students have completed XYZ thing, etc. And so in this dashboard component, what was missing that I wish we could have done, have more of a real-time data capture or feedback loop with the instructors. Instead of what we did do, we met with them and we showed them some prototypes. This is what it would look like. This is how it would work. But it wasn't coded. And so one limitation that we have is we have been wanting to build a beta environment where we can build out the feature and the instructors and students could actually use it and play with it and give us feedback. So the difference with that and the actual designs, just the comps, the screens, you can't interact with the screens as much. And so that's one thing I wish we could do, just have a way to have this better environment so we can get better feedback. Turns out that when we released the dashboard, even though they had approved and they liked the concept, the way that it looked, we explained all the functionality, they hadn't really played with it. So after playing with it, they said, this is not going to work. We need this a little different. This has to be defaulted to this other state. We want to see ungraded students first or second or third. So that was one thing that had we had this better environment or a way to, in real time, ask them, okay, what do you think about this? That would have saved us that frustration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me, and I wonder how they actually gather feedback at Walmart because, working on the checkout page, you change something goes the wrong way, it costs millions of dollars.
Definitely, yes, yeah.
And so how does an organization like Walmart make sure that when you release those updates that they're going to be successful?
Yeah, so we usually have 100% task coverage with everything automated, and every change that we make, we have computers that we run through the website and make sure that everything is working as expected. And usually when we include a new functionality, what we do what we call ABC testing. Mm-hmm. And we release gradually and see the numbers and to see is that version of this website good enough? If we are not having any errors, and we start scaling up from there instead of just rolling out, the whole feature.
So it's like it will be released to a group of users first, and then a bigger group, and this and so on.
Yeah, like percentage, let's release that feature for 1%. Let's see if that impact the conversion or not. Let's see how that the errors are coming out, if we're having any issues, and if we do, we adjust that version, and then just after the fix, we start scaling up for more people.
How about you, Gustavo? How do you gather data from your users?
Right now we have an app called Pendo,
mm-hmm.
which Pendo is kind of like a layer on top of the app. where we can ask specific questions to specific people, specific places. So that's one way that we do it. We do that with the NPS, the Net Promoter Score. We every quarter we ask students and faculty, how likely are you to recommend this to new students, right?
Right.
And so that's one way we get feedback, but is overall feedback, how happy are you with the app? But we could also ask specific feedback. If you are on a page after, let's say, 90 days of using it, I could ask you specific questions. What could we improve here? How was your experience on this page? But we do that for like the main features. So we do that with that Pendo app. And another component of that is guides, where we basically can guide the student through an experience like a tour. You know, this is how you use this, you go here, then you click here, and then at the end of that, we could ask them, well, how is he, you know, positive, neutral, or negative?
Right.
Just to get that high-level feedback.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I was wondering a little bit about, we talked about very early, how do you fall in love with technology, but at some point you make a decision of pursuing a career in technology, and lucky for us, both of you chose this institution for it. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that decision-making process of this is what I want to do, and this is the place where I want to do it.
Yeah, so I saw like, Full Sail University has a very different university from the others, where we touch a lot of more like on, not a lot on theory, but a lot of like
Practical?
Yeah, and I think that really caught my attention because what we do here is pretty much like what you're going to be doing on the market, and yeah, I think that was a big difference from the other places.
How about you, Gustavo?
Yeah, so when I was doing my computer science degree in Dominican Republic, it was in the third year that a friend of mine walked in. He handed me this book, Macromedia Flash 5. And essentially, we have gotten most of our programming foundation. It was specialized in databases. And I loved it. I did love what I was doing there. But this new book that my friend put in my hands, I spent all day, all night devouring it. It was about interactivity and designing for interactivity. So I spent that last year of university studying Flash and doing my normal schoolwork. That's when I realized I wanted to spend more time designing how the app looked than actually programming it. All of my instructors made fun of that. They didn't think that there was a future in web. There was an inside joke too. Because they were old school, right?
Right.
And so, lo and behold, here we are, right? Everything is web and apps.
Right.
So I was happy for that, but my cousin was the one that told me about Full Sail, connected me with Aldania, who's here. And coming to Full Sail, I knew that interactivity and programming, there has to be something there for me. And Full Sail exposed me to multimedia, which involved video, gaming. So the benefit there is that I was able to dabble in a couple different things. And even after all that, I realized I still like interactive design for the web. So that's the best way that I could say I landed where I am today.
I'm so glad that the internet wasn't a fad after all. And once you get here, both of you guys move from a different country to come here, and we try to put a lot of emphasis on the experience of the international student. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about how was your experience coming from a different country, coming here, and joining a community of international students.
Yeah, so as you mentioned in the beginning, when I came here, I came with zero English. I think I was, back in my time, was one of the few students that started on level 0, right? Like, not even how are you, I couldn't understand. But definitely my teachers here did a great job on teaching me and getting me, to know the cultures, the events that Full Sail does around, international students is very important as well. I got to meet like a lot of people from other countries, a lot of other cultures as well, and yeah, that was very great. Yeah. Even coming here alone without like knowing the language, I felt home, and that was very important to me. Yep.
How about you? I think you came to high school here.
Yes, I did high school, but I also didn't speak English when I came here, which kind of sucks because, as you know, I was made fun of for that reason. But that kind of gave me that extra drive, that extra motivation, right, to succeed. But as far as my day-to-day, being an immigrant, I share the language. I don't necessarily use it for my work, But the fact that I can connect better with my coworkers that either speak Spanish or Portuguese, because I learned to speak Portuguese, that's a benefit as well, that connection. But besides that, the actual path and the change that happened, being really comfortable with change, it does help my work on day to day. You know that when you travel, you're moving countries, everything is completely different. And having that resilience to endure that change, whenever you have a programmer telling you, we can't do this, or there's limited resources, we can't do that, we can't go there, or we have to change priorities, or there's a new technology that came out where I have to spend another 3 months, 6 months learning another tool just to do my job. That change, you have to get comfortable with it. And I think there's a small component of having been traveling to different countries like that and even coming here that made me feel more comfortable with accepting that change.
Actually, you get into my next question a little bit there. And I can never explain to somebody how being an immigrant affects the work that I do, because I don't know any other way. You know, I only know my point of view. But as you can observe about what is it that you bring that is different, and I wonder for other people, what do you think being an immigrant gets you in the work?
Yeah, I think, diversity at work is very important because you have people that can look a problem from other perspective. And as I mentioned on the previous question, back in Brazil, one of the biggest challenges on building platforms or apps was like the connectivity that the majority of people had. And I think, that very early in my career, when I learned how to code, I always had that in mind,
Right.
performance, and how to make things load faster. Which I know that a lot of the engineers here, they have, but I think, I kind of end up mastering it a little bit just because of the place around me and like what people actually had access to.
That has to help you with Walmart, right?
Yeah.
Because of the volume that they have there. They
Yeah.
have to be thinking an effective way to render.
Yeah, definitely. Performance is very important. You can have it, as much servers as you want, but if you can make your code run faster with less resources, at the end of the day, the company can save definitely millions of dollars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I once interviewed a product manager for Internet Explorer when that was a thing. Mm-hmm. And he said, we got to be very careful because some other environment, you release a change and it doesn't work. There's a mistake. If we release a change and it doesn't work, we broke the internet.
Yes.
And so volume really matters, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you can expand on your answer, what do you think as an immigrant you bring to the workplace?
Well, I have to admit that I really felt the difference in the work ethic. Mm-hmm. Being from Dominican Republic, it's just a different culture altogether. You have to hustle so much more to achieve anything. You have to do the job of 3 different people. I was network engineer, I was programmer, I was web designer, all in one person. So, and by the way, the electricity was not reliable.
Yes.
So how could I work on technology when I don't even have electricity?
Yes.
Long story short, it was pain. It was very difficult. So coming with that amount of hustle into the United States, where there is internet, where there is reliable electricity, where you are expected to do one job and one job really well, that just made that transition so much more, easy for me. Because I say, I'm already really good at 3 things.
Exactly.
When I package that into one position, one job, there's no way that you can fail.
And imagine also gets you an ability to communicate with the people that do those other jobs as well, right?
Yes, this is true.
Yes. And all right, so getting more personal into your guys' success. I mean, I think that part of finding success is having a very good understanding where you're very good at, and having self-awareness. And if you can harness that, it can be your superpower. It's the thing that you rely on. What do you think is your superpower?
Well, I think my superpower would be like, I don't know, I think I learned how to learn things, in a very fast way. And this allows me to, adapt to the new technologies that are coming in and new frameworks. I stay up to date to what is coming next. And, I think I create that hungry about learning new things and searching for new content. And I'm always up to speed, I guess.
While you answering that question, my mind went to this when we worked together in a project in Brazil, and the internet in the office was awful, and it was very, very frustrating. And then Rhuan came in very quiet, and he looked at it, and then he went back to the back. He brought a cable, and then he just changed the station from this room to that other room, and we had 3 times the bandwidth all of a sudden. And I'm like, that 15-year-old, he's onto something. So Gustavo, what do you think is your superpower?
So Luis, believe it or not, my superpower is that I'm very critical. I am obsessed with efficiency. And it helps me in my job because my job is to be critical. Every single pixel on that screen matters. And one thing it kind of sucks for my wife is that I am so critical because everywhere that we go, I critique something. This could be better, that could be better, this could be faster, this could be slower. And we like to travel. An example is, you've been to Japan, Luis.
Yeah, right.
Japan is so efficient. Everything is so amazing. So I love Japan. But coming that into day-to-day life, you can find efficiencies in everything. In a document that you're reading, I'm looking for how could this be more efficient, easier to read? Could this be said in less words? It could be in a line, you're in the bank. I mean, who goes to the bank anymore? But if you're somewhere and there's a really inefficient way of something being done, I'm always thinking, how could this be better? So my day-to-day job is, if I'm presenting with a problem that I need to solve visually, I have to get as much data as I can and figure out how can this be the most efficient interface at achieving that one task.
That's great. This is going to be the last question I ask you before I go to you guys. So if you're just thinking of your questions, the microphone is over there. And after this question, I'm going to start taking your questions. I think that today is the most exciting time to be in technology. I've been in technology for a very long time, 30 years, something like that. And 40, if I count, and I started programming when I was a kid. And but the first 20 years of technology was about building infrastructure. And most of my career as a programmer was building websites or bringing information to people. But today, technology started when I got started. They all got to maturity. You mentioned artificial intelligence, which started about 40 years ago. And now all those blocks are built, and you can build on top of them. And you can really solve very important problems that you couldn't even frame 20 years ago, let alone solve. So I think it's the most exciting time to work in technology there is. But so I tell anyone that has a passion for technology to go ahead and do it. But what would you tell somebody that wants to work in technology?
Yeah, so I think one of the most exciting things that are coming right now is probably blockchain, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things being built like around blockchain technology. This decentralization. I think it's a very important thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the question is, what would you tell somebody that is pursuing a career in technology? I'll ask you that question later about what about technology you're excited about.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of opportunities, in the market today for around, technology. I think it's probably one of the sectors that are hiring the most in the US today. Even though if you look like immigration laws, we're looking to expand the amount of visas and things like that because we don't have enough people in the US today to fill those jobs. Myself, like a Walmart, I'm interviewing probably someone every day trying to find people to work there. So I think there's a lot of demand and not a lot of people. So it's definitely a great time to be around this space.
How about you? What would you recommend somebody wanting to work in technology?
So Luis, the same advice that what worked for me is that I just tried many different things. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of online classes you can take, workshops, and you don't have to overcommit, but just do, let's say, like a month here, a month there, learning something different so that you are exposed to as many areas of interest as possible. And from there, you can drill down in something that resonates the most with you.
Yes. I think it's about 1 million software engineer jobs that remain open every single year. If you go to cybersecurity, it's 3.5 million jobs that go unfulfilled worldwide. And so it's almost impossible not to get a job in technology these days if you're qualified. And so I'll take the first question from the public. Come on, guys. Aldania is moving. Come on. Vamos, Aldania. Ya viene. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Aldania. What's your question?
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Hello.
First of all, I just want to thank you both for taking the time to be here today, and we know how busy you are, and we appreciate your enlightenment. I thank you for making this relatable, because tech can be something that can seem very overwhelming to many people, and you've just helped us understand how what you do affects us on a day-to-day basis. When I hear Rhuan talking about the medical industry and Walmart, I shop at Walmart, I do Walmart checkout, I go to Sam's Club, and when you're a caregiver to your parents and you go to the hospital with them on a normal basis, you're looking at the doctors reviewing years and years of notes. And so in that example too, I can see the value in that. As an employee here at Full Sail, and a student too, I appreciate the dashboard, I appreciate FSO, I appreciate the seamlessness, so thank you for that. You answered one of my questions, which has to do with efficiency. I think it's normal for one to critique, right? And I did want to hear some examples of things that you've experienced out there where you've thought, gosh, that could have been done better, or I would have changed it, I would have designed it differently. So thank you for answering that question. My other two questions are, thinking back to our countries, and now that you've gained all of this knowledge, have you ever thought of how you would implement your knowledge and your experience to improve our own countries back home, to bring that technology back home and make things better for our people, while still maintaining here in the United States? Is there any kind of a future plan or maybe even a dream that you have of bringing back your skill set and helping your own countries? And secondly, what advice would you give to international students, not so much about going into tech, of course about coming to tech, but coming to Full Sail? What advice would you give them if they're afraid, if they're hesitant? What would you tell them? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Aldania. That's a great question. I'll start with Gustavo.
Yeah, so to be honest, I have thought about that. Aldania, I've thought about how can I use my gifts for the benefit of my country. And very subtly, I can say that I just really want to work on all of the government websites. They're so horrible. Anything that makes it easier for people to interact with the country, right? Immigrations, you name it, the airlines. But as far as bringing talent into the country, in this new economy, it's so much easier for a remote worker to move around and still do the work for any tech company, regardless of where they are. So there are places in Dominican Republic that are very attractive for that. And me and our friend have been thinking about how can we do like an Airbnb for remote workers where I could be in charge of the experience, right? How do you book this property? How can I communicate to you that it has really good internet, that is close to the beach, that you can walk to the supermarket? And so using technology to incentivize more people living and working in Dominican Republic, I think it's a win-win for everybody. And as far as advice for a future Full Sailer, like I mentioned before, I chose a degree that exposed me to things that I knew I had a slight interest in, but I knew that there was a lot of potential there. So digital media at the time, you could branch out into many different fields. I loved video, I loved video games, but not as much as video and web, but also the foundational art component, because they teach. Well, I learned about the foundations of art and design. So that by itself just opens a lot of possibilities. So just choose a degree where you feel that you see yourself solving a problem, you feel that you spend a lot of time of thinking about this, and you have no problem devoting the rest of your life or spending a heck of a lot of time. The time commitment is huge. I would just overnight, everything that I worked on, I loved it so much, I did not want to sleep. So that's a good sign that you are following the right path.
Thank you, Gustavo. How about you, Rhuan? How about lending your skills back home?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I would love to do in the future to bring back to the community in Brazil, it's probably, I think the language is a big barrier for like a lot of developers there. And I think, probably start translating or creating content around, technology for the people that, have issues with the language would be one of the things that I would love to do.
Yes.
Yeah, and the advice for the students, I think, if you still study English or if you're already on a program, I would say that, start building your networking, start, communicating with other people here around Full Sail. That's very important. I know that Full Sail has some events around career networking. That was one of the ways that I got contact with a lot of companies, and I got some interviews in that way as well. So don't wait until the end of your month of graduation to start thinking about that. Start building a portfolio, start making network, because that's a definitely very important thing to do.
I'm gonna follow up on that question while you guys think of another question to ask. And so I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes to think about a question, and that's the microphone over there. And but I love asking that question because from the moment you set a foot in this campus, people are going to be talking to you about networking. And at least in my country, it wasn't really a concept that we managed. This idea that to relate with people and that basically every single person is a potential job. And it was a concept that was not really instilled in me, and I learned here, and I have carried the rest of my professional life. But I talk a lot of graduates about the significance of networking. So let me ask you two, what has been the significance of networking in your career?
Well, that's an easy question, Luis, because were it not for networking, I would not be here today. I literally met Luis over lunch one time. It was 2006.
Wow, you remember.
And I was a student. I had just graduated, and he was working in a department called Curriculum Development.
Yes.
And we were just talking. We're both Latinos. We both studied the same thing, computer science. So that was enough to, start that conversation. So he was asking what I was interested in, what I was working on. I was working on Flash programming. He casually told me, we have this project that we want to do. Turned out to be a maybe 3-month project. He, for some reason, really liked the way that I handled the project. He was happy with that. He literally offered me the job at Full Sail. So a year after graduating, I was already working full-time, and it was because I invited him to go out for lunch. We went somewhere around here in campus. So definitely worked out for me. But what is obvious is that the more that you do it, the more you expand your net, you cast your net, 1 out of 10 people is going to bite. And so that's the benefit of networking.
I do remember that lunch. We had a lot in common, actually. We have all the same careers. I had graduated from digital media as well. And I hired you as a freelancer first, and you did an amazing job at the work, and then I hired you full time.
Thank you.
And how about you? What has the working done to you? Already say something about that.
So back in my time here at Full Sail, while I was studying, I actually met 2 different people, and I was able, to start working on side projects along, my degree.
Yes.
And that was like Megaphoto and AutoPads.
Yeah, AutoPads.
And that actually helped me at the end to get another jobs because, I could show some experience. So if I haven't met like Daniel or Lucas, that it's from AutoPads, I would probably not have the job that I have today because, while I was studying here, I was at the same time gaining experience and
I have interviewed Lucas a few times. I had a one-on-one with Lucas, and here in Tech Too, it's impressive. Another international student started his business when he was with us, hired you while he was a student. He has a big business right now. It's a pretty incredible story. I think I have a question over there. Do I?
Thanks y'all for joining us today. It's really great to hear y'all's perspectives. And I've got a couple of questions. Gustavo, I'd like to ask you specifically. Do you think the UX design process is universal, or would you say that an American designing for folks in the Dominican Republic would not have the same kind of relationship because maybe the UX design process is not like fulfilling enough because of cultural differences? And to both of you, my second question would be, thinking about the democratization of technology across the world. I'm very much into like augmented reality apps and things of that nature, and I find that young people all across the world, whether they're in Indonesia or Brazil or wherever they may be, seem to have a lot more access to technology nowadays. And I'm wondering what you all think about the trends of that, or how it may unlock skills and potential for the future of the tech world.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so a good question. In Dominican Republic, the culture is indeed very different. It's very much law of the jungle there. Everybody's out to survive by themselves. And so that's one of the challenges I would say uh, with working with US experience, user experience, is that you have to talk to people. You have to do a lot of research. And the quality of that UX research that you do is going to inform your design. So I would venture to guess that it would be a little challenging at first, getting the heads of the companies, the people that work, people out in the street. They're just focused on, making it through the day. I don't know how willing they would be to provide, substantial feedback. You would have to provide a lot of incentive. I know here sometimes user testing, they offer gift cards to Amazon. So maybe some of that would be involved, right? So it's not that challenging because bottom line, you're still doing problem solving. People over there do want their lives to be more efficient. They don't want to spend an hour, 2 hours at the bank. That's really a pain over there. Everything that you need to do, you have to go somewhere to do it. There's not as many online services. Like here, you can't just call a technician, they show up, using an app like TaskRabbit or whatever. So it'll take time, but I think the willingness is there from the Dominicans to improve their daily life. But your second question with augmented reality and virtual reality, from my point of view, there's obviously potential and user experience. Regardless of what device you're using to access that world, you still need to design a good experience in there. So at least from what I do, I see that there's still a lot of room for growth there and potential.
Juan, do you want to add to the question about augmented reality?
Yeah, I think, the future of that is brilliant, and probably in the next 4 or 5 years, we have seen this trend change where people are working from home right now, and I believe that technology will come in and we'll probably be in a position where we cannot differentiate if, like we are, in an office or like you're working remote. And I think that will, drastically improve our communication as well and make us feel close to people that are, all around the world.
So you're a believer in the metaverse?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have another question?
Hi, I think this question might have been asked before because it's about COVID, so it's the norm now. So I'm just wondering, from your perspectives, how do you think COVID has changed the tech industry, if any, whether it's in a positive way, whether it's in a negative way, both in your day-to-day daily tasks? I know that you're working probably from home because the company's based in another state. But in general, for the users, for people who are working in tech, how has this new norms changed the industry? And how do you think it's going to keep changing in the future?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. I actually used to have that question in my deck, so I'm glad that you asked it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have noticed there's a lot of improvements in the user experience side of things. As you know, there's this touchless interface now where you can go somewhere, you don't have to hold the menu in your hands. You can scan the QR code. If you're gonna go take a test, you can fill out the form on your phone. This is huge, at least for me, because I was very critical having to go to a pharmacy or lab and fill out a paper form when I already have autofill on my phone with my name, my address, my phone number. In one touch, the form is 50% filled out. So I think that's beneficial when you can reduce the amount of friction with the things that the user needs to interact with. And as far as a more widespread net, you can sense that a lot of companies are putting a lot more money into the technologies, right? The checkout experience, a lot of more people shopping online. So it's definitely a lot easier to shop online today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. So all of that is a big thing for tech.
What do you think COVID did to tech?
Yeah, definitely. And just continue what he was saying in terms of like the checkout experience, for example. But I think overall, we are looking for ways to save people's time today, because I think we have in mind right now, how can I optimize my day, or how can I save time overall? Even like if I can go to a store, I can choose probably like a curbside pickup and do everything online and not having to interact, on the store and because of the COVID situation and things like that. So I think we are just looking for ways overall to optimize, people's time.
That's fantastic. Go ahead. Is that Carmen?
Yes, it's Carmen.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing your stories. And it's definitely very inspirational for me, for us, and for any of our future international students and just students in general to know that there's definitely a huge web, a lot of possibilities in the tech industry. You both touched a bit, and added some insight on just the fact that there are a lot of jobs. There's a shortage of professionals in this industry. And speaking on the topic of the international student, I know that it's important to plan ahead, to be proactive, to really take advantage of casting that net. But what else would you say to that international student that has hesitations and reservations and also needs to maybe educate their employers about their status and the limitations and just the challenges that they have to overcome when it comes to securing a change of status? I don't know if you can add a little bit more insight on maybe some things that they can be a little bit ahead of the game to really put themselves in a better position if they meet the requirements for a position in this competitive industry.
I gotta let Rhuan answer this one because I don't know if you changed status.
Right.
Yeah,
so
he's living it right now.
yeah, so as I mentioned before, right, just don't let to try to figure out all of these things in the last month of graduation because it's a lot to learn. But definitely, make a research and try to see, what companies can support, like what we call OPT. And the next step of the OPT, if you're not like in computer science, or what we call STEM, right, is the OPT STEM. And then after that, what you can do is get a H-1B. So what I would recommend is just, for the company that you're going to use your OPT with, what you can do is see if they can support your sponsorship for the H-1B. Because if not, you're going to be losing time with the company for your first year of the OPT, and they're not going to sponsor your H-1B. So the process is going to be much harder later. So there are like a lot of websites online that you can put the name of the company, and you're going to see, if they have done sponsorship on the past or not, or what is the denial rate or like the acceptance rate from the immigration side. So definitely do this research before accepting a job or before,
That's a great advice. I'll add to that, and because I went through that process myself too. And something that somebody told me, and I pass along to everyone that I meet that is in that situation, is that no one is more interested for that process to go well than you. And so think about it that every single time you need a signature. Every single time you need to speak to somebody. Don't wait thinking, well, they got it. They got the attorney. They do that. No. Because if that process doesn't go well, they all go home to their families. Their life doesn't get affected. The only life that gets affected when that doesn't go well is yours. And so you're the most interested person for that process to go well. So you have to make sure that you make it your highest priority, if that's what you want, to stay and work in America to make sure that it goes well. Yeah. I told you that when you started that process. I'm pretty sure that you have continued with it. So I think we're getting to unless you want to add to that, Gustavo?
No, I don't have experience in that department.
Okay. All right. So we're going to the end now, and I want to ask you my last question that I know you're excited to answer, and which is what technology you're very excited today because of the future? So you were talking about blockchain.
Yeah, definitely blockchain is one of my favorite technologies right now. I think we're coming to a world where we're going to see a lot of decentralization on the financial side, on the application side. We have like technologies like Ethereum or other platforms today that you can create decentralized applications without like intervention of banks or things like that. But not just in that way, on that sense, but today we have like services like AWS or Microsoft Azure, which has like these servers. But I believe in the future, we're going to see a lot more decentralization on that regard as well, where people will probably be using their computer as a server and will get reward for that. And that will bring other evolutions to technology in terms of preventing an attack, or things like that. I think blockchain definitely will solve a lot of problems in the future.
Love blockchain. Go ahead, Gustavo.
In my case, I wouldn't pinpoint it too much into one specific technology because with what I love, which is app design and UX UI, a lot of it is unbeknownst to us, is happening in the background. So if we were to put a name to it, like I mentioned earlier, that touchless UI, where with artificial intelligence and other components, the app or the service already knows what you're going to do next, and they recommend it for you. That to me, I just love it because it just means I don't have to pull out my phone for something. It knows what I want to do next, and it recommends it. Like in the traveling example that I was giving earlier, when I get out of the airplane, I get a notification on my watch that the baggage claim has changed. And that just happened automatically because they know I got out of the plane. When I arrive at the hotel, I use an Uber. I arrive at the hotel, Uber recommends to me, are you hungry? Launch Uber Eats, let's recommend some places for you to order some food. So that's the kind of thing that gets me excited because it means I don't have to be a slave to the phone. I'm not big on spending a lot of time with technology because there's some health benefits there, right? I mean, negative things.
Yeah.
So anything that gets us as humanity less attached to things that could be a vice, anything that is healthier for us, less interface is a step in that direction.
No, thank you so much. And for all of you, thank you so much for joining us. Those that are online in YouTube and Facebook, thank you for joining us today. And this was our last Text Tuesday of the year. So we're very excited to have you next year again with more episodes of Text Tuesday. Muchísimas gracias. Muito obrigado. Goodbye.